So we remember we get on the board perpendicular to it, and then we turn, put the paddle across, and then in our down dog position, walk our feet forward, about shoulder width to the slot that balances the board as we carry. And now, how do we determine where our hands are on the paddle? Basically, you would lift the paddle up over your head and bring it down to a 90 degree. And you can kind of see this maybe with a shadow, but that's going to give you a good idea as to where your bottom hand would be. So for me, it would be right about here. Now the bottom hand is just acting like a fulcrum, okay? Because when we do our power stroke, it's coming from the top, okay? It's not a pull at all. If you're going to be pulling, you're going to end up with some difficult shoulder issues. So let's look at the 5 sequence elements to a stroke with the paddle. Again, remember, we're pushing water from the inside of the spoon. A lot of your paddles will have the writing on the outside, on the curved part of the paddle. So we're reaching out. This is called the reach, okay? We're reaching the paddle as far forward as we can. And with the spoon shaped like it is, that gives us just a couple more inches to reach further. The further we reach, the more we've got the paddle's drive within our power stroke. So our reach is as far forward as we can. And you see how I'm kind of opening up my left side here to reach over? Okay, now as I go to the next step, it's the catch. That's where the blade will go into the water, and we want to bring the blade all the way up to the throat. So you're going to put the blade all the way in. That's our catch. Now we're ready for the power drive, where we're pushing with our top hand. Again, the bottom hand is just a fulcrum to push against, and we're driving the paddle back, and we're just driving it back to the back of our foot, okay, to our heel. And then we would have the next step would be our release, where we pull the paddle up out of the water, and we'll turn the paddle and feather it into the wind. So it's feathering just like a wing, and we're feathering it, and then we turn it back for a reach, catch, drive, release, recovery, reach, catch, drive, release, recovery. Okay. So again, key points. We're trying to place the paddle on our reach at the widest point of the board. Okay, so as I reach forward, I'm out from the nose so that I'm matching up with the widest point of the board. If I put the paddle all the way in, I'll be running the curvature of the board and putting the board into a turn. I don't want to do that. Okay, the other thing is just I want the paddle 90 degrees to the widest point of the board. Okay, now this may vary if there are wind conditions or currents or something where I would adjust for turning characteristics, but in flat, non-wind water where I want to go straight, the precision of getting that blade in 90 degrees is huge. Just a 5 degree or 10 degree variation, and now you're all over the place. You're not able to keep a straight line. So reaching forward on my catch, I'm 90 degrees to the widest edge of the board. The catch, blade goes all the way into the water, up to the throat, not just halfway. And now the movement is really almost forward and down. Okay, so I'm getting this opening, and any of you who've done yoga, you may know what the half moon posture is, where you're bending over and really opening up your sides and getting a nice stretch here on the opposite side. So your drive, as you reach forward, you may throw a little twist in your thigh just to get a little more forward. And as you do that, you'll notice you're loading up your thigh, and that energy is going to come right across your core, and as you come out, it's going to just drive forward. Okay? So you're getting almost a martial arts type of movement. So if you watch the Tahitians, any advanced paddlers, you'll see that they'll have almost an explosion with their stroke. Okay, so you're not just moving the energy from your hand. You're taking it all the way from the bottom of your feet up from your thigh across your core, through your shoulder, and you're throwing it out. And as you throw it out, if you throw out to infinity, you have so much more power and drive than if you think it's just your hand that's working on the paddle. So, a little twist forward on the thigh, on my reach, so I get a little further forward. My catch, where I put the blade fully in up to throw it. See how my thigh's loaded? And now I'm going to do my drive where it's up, over, and across, and down, back to the back of my foot. I pull the blade up, twist, feather the blade back so I minimize wind resistance. Now I'm ready for my reach, catch, power, release, feather, back. Okay, so those are the mechanics that I want you to just put in your head before the lesson so you get a sense of what these are, so you're not having to think about it so much when we're actually having the lesson. Because what I really want you to do is get to a point where you can understand how rhythmic this is. It's not only precise, but there's a rhythm here that will keep the board at a nice steady pace. So you'll want to keep that stroke going even. Reach, catch, power, release. Reach, catch, power, release, recovery. Reach. So you just keep that rhythm going, and you can almost hear the music to what your stroke is. Okay? When you have that board, and you'll see how the water parts from the nose of the board, it won't be going forward and stopping and forward and stopping. What happens, I would say, with over half of my students is they do this kind of thing. Reach, catch, drive, release, and then they hang out a little bit and the board comes to a complete stop. They lose all momentum, and then they'll start again. Okay, it's a broken rhythm. Okay, so now they're doing twice as much work because they're losing all the momentum that they worked to get. Okay, so the rhythm is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Okay, sometimes listening to music is helpful just to keep that rhythm going. Now the next step is knowing that it's quite a delicate thing to not lose a beat when you're switching sides. Because to keep on a straight line, naturally, even if you are getting the blade in perfect, unless you're doing some corrections, if you're paddling on the right side, you'll eventually steer to the left. And when that starts happening, if you're going off course, you're going to have to switch over to the other side and start paddling there. So when you first start, maybe you'll have to make a stroke or two on one side, you're going off course, and now you have to switch over to the other side. Okay, the better you get, the more strokes you can get on one side without changing. And certainly as you move into a more advanced state, you can paddle on one side wherever you want to go by just making subtle alterations on the angle of your blade. Or in where you shift your weight on the side of the board, where maybe you want to put one of the edges of the board in and have it actually acting as a resistance to keeping your board on a line of course. One thing I'd also say is that when you set out, it's really nice to pick a destination. Okay? Pick a point that you want to go to. And you know, this is so important with life. If you pick out what you want, where do you want to go? So many people just get on the board and just start paddling and they haven't got any idea of where they're going, and they end up going in circles. So pick a point that you're going to paddle to, and return from. And just stay on that course, and you'll see that your body-mind is just starting to make those alterations just by sending the desire to go to that spot. So when you come for your lesson, I'll always be giving you a destination that I want you to paddle to keep you focused on holding a straight line. So, getting the rhythm down, again, back to maybe once you start getting the feel of this, you'll go 4 strokes on one side, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2. So see if you can not lose a beat when you shift over to the other side. Okay, just get that going. Now, here's a very important point. As you're doing your drive stroke, your shoulders should line up. Okay, see how my shoulders are lined up? My bottom elbow's always locked. Okay, if I'm pulling, now I'm getting all that irritation in my shoulder. Okay, keep that locked. Again, it's just a fulcrum. Some strokes, it's nice to have both arms locked. Just down. You have to bend a little bit, maybe a little harder on the lower back. Sometimes that's a real fast power stroke. But what I'm talking about here is how your shoulders line up. You see how when this opens up, these are open. Okay, bottom elbow always locked. Now, what happens often is that people paddle out here. And you see what the angle of the paddle? We don't want that, okay? That's going to throw you into turns, take you off course. You want your blade up and down. Okay, see that? 90 degrees. So the blade itself is 90 degrees to the beam of the board. The shoulders are lined up evenly. And you see how the shaft is straight up and down. And that will give you a very efficient stroke. And when you can do that with a rhythm, you'll be paddling with the best.